Now what I promised you, I promised you that I'm going to make this code a better code by including an exception. What I'm going to do, whatever the code, I want to keep that inside a try block. There you see. I kept this code inside a try block. Variable is equal to /0 and the print of var. So what basically I did, I kept inside a try block. Okay. So let me run. It says unexpected EOF. What does it mean? It says Mohan, when I was trying this program, okay. So when I tried this program, at the end of the file, I couldn't parse it. That means I cannot validate it. Why? Because every try should have at least one catch block. At least one catch block. Make sure that you read my vocabulary. At least one except. So except the block. Except you give some print statement. Say sorry. So what basically I'm trying to achieve here, I want my Python to run the above line of code. If the error occurs, it should come to this except block. That's how I written the code. Try this code. If it is an error, come back to the except block and do whatever I say. Whatever I say means what I told now. Just print me sorry. So look at this. There you see. It prints a sorry. So this is what we call it as exception, default exception. Why default exception? This exception will catch any kind of error in your code. It is not specific to any errors, any exception. It is default, generic. If you want, I can show you another example. Look at this. What was this? A plus 10. So what I'm basically trying to do, I'm trying to merge a number with a string. So this is also kind of error, but different kind of error. It's a type error. You cannot concatenate a letter, that means character, with that of the number, but still it will catch. Look at it. Again, it found there is error on the code, so it went to the exception block, and whatever I given on the exception block getting highlighted over here. So the basic point to be noted here is that yes, the basic point is that this is a default exception. A try with a default exception. That means what? Whatever that error that you gonna have it in your code, it is gonna catch in the exception block. Fine. Right. Now the bigger question is that is there any way that I can have or I can catch a specific exception? Yes, you can. Look at this. Except zero division error. So what happened here? I was specifically telling my try block to catch me the zero division error. So obviously, let me add a line number. So obviously line number 21 belongs to zero division error category. So it will be caught. It says sorry because yes, when it's trying to catch this zero division error, the code belongs to that error type only. So it is printing sorry. Okay. So if you ask me whether it is applicable to everything, not at all. Look at this. Now you know it, right? It is of type error category, but the catching I did only for the zero division error. So what will happen? Invariably, it will end up in the usual error format because when I was doing the catch, I was very specific to my program. I'm telling to catch only if it is a zero division error, but line number 20 is very obvious that that particular line of code will not belong to this category. So what happened? Abruptly it is through the usual error. Okay, so you can catch a number of exception as per your wish, right? But you don't know what kind of error that may come across. Okay, so you may not predict the usual errors. Of course, you can predict certain up to certain extent, but further you cannot predict what kind of exception that you're gonna get, right? It is better that you use default exception at the last always. So now what happened? If the code belongs to zero division category, it will go to the 31st line. If it is any other category, obviously it will come to the default block. Okay, this is what the nature or the better way of writing a code. So next point which I'm trying to highlight here is that a single try can have more than one exception block. That's what very evident. Like look at line number 27. A single try, but how many exceptions it has? It has two exceptions. That is also possible. Single try can have multiple exception. That is what the point here. A single try can have a multiple exception block. Okay, fine. As usual, some default statement. Now look at this. What is this? A customized error. That means your own static error, correct? What we discussed in the very first line, I told that each and every exception belongs to the parent class called exception. It indicates what? Each and every exception will have their own meaning. Why that exception is going to occur. Okay, that you can get it. Instead of you giving the user defined error statement, you can get the actual error statement of the specific exception by declaring a small statement called as means from the given data get me the actual output. So instead of sorry, you can use put exception. When you run, look at this. Now it's much better, right? So user or a client or even a developer can understand what was the error it is coming. Instead of sorry means what? It is generic statement. They may not be able to predict what kind of error it is. But here, at least they'll come to conclusion why that error occurs. Okay, right. I'm writing each and everything separately so that when you serve the videos again, you can have a better partition. Okay. Now, what happened? Here I'm trying to catch zero division error. Again, it is not necessary that you should catch only one error. You can catch more than one error also. Look at this. Except type error as EX. This is also possible. So try can have a multiple exception block and it can also have more than one specified exception. So what I'm telling, if it is zero division error, go to line number 51. If it is type error, go to line number 54. If not, then obviously go to the 57th statement. So what is the point here? You can mention as much as specific exception as you can if you know it, right? So let me change it to first. Let me run this. It belongs to zero division category, so it went into the 51st one. Now I'm gonna change it to some other code so that we'll get a type error exception. Now this is type error. Now when I run, look at this. It says can concatenate only string to string, not integer to string. Okay, that's what it is. So now what happened? It reached this exception. Okay, that's the point. You can have many exceptions as you want. Okay, and one important thing to be noted here is that you can have any exception. I'm not, system not going to stop you, but the default exception which I defined at the 57 lines should be the last exception. Okay, I see this kind of interview question. Okay, get yourself prepared. Right. You might be telling, sir, if they give me, I can run and show them the output. Sometimes they don't ask you to run. What they want is that they will try to assess you how far you have the knowledge without even typing. That's the beauty of any programmer, right? You should know by seeing the code. So what is this? Obviously syntax error. If you have a doubt, let me run. Look at this. What it says, default except must be the last statement. So this is the point. It should always have the default except as last case. Right.